Hello and welcome to an in-depth look at the Paulina Tarot part 1 of 3. Today we're going to be going over in part 1 the major arcana, and that starts with 0, the Fool. And to me, the Fool, a lot of cards have dual meanings, as does this one. One meaning of the Fool is to guard against being foolhardy and not looking at consequences and just being kind of careless and reckless. And the second meaning is maybe you need to have a little bit more fun in life and be a little bit more carefree. So depending on the surrounding cards, this one can be either of those things. The artwork is so detailed. She's got all kinds of stuff going on in these. I have 2 of her decks, and it's so whimsical and fun. I just would love to step into this world or dream this world. That would be so fun. I love her art. Okay, and number 1 is the Magician, and she does definitely follow the traditional guidelines of traditional tarot, which I like. It makes it a little easier to read them that way. Excuse me. And the Magician to me says to the person, the querent that's being read for, that normally that person has all that they need to accomplish what their goal is, and a lot of times they don't think they have what they need, and we're so trained to look outside of ourselves. So this card says to look within for your resources. And then if you notice down here, there's a pentacle, a cup, a sword, and a wand. So all of the tools that this person needs to accomplish their goals are available to them now. And of course everything is dependent on the surrounding cards. Now here's the High Priestess. The High Priestess to me is the intuition card of the deck. It's also that she's got 2 little beings here, and one looks male to me and the other looks female. And it's about balancing the dualities within oneself. But to me, the High Priestess always says to follow your gut and follow your intuition and check inside and go with what you think is the right way to handle whatever your situation is. That usually doesn't change with the surrounding cards either. Now the Empress. Look at all the beautiful things going on in this card. She's got all of this growth and abundance happening and happy little creatures around her. The Empress stands for fertility, love, creativity. The Empress is a very strong woman. She's very kind, but she's also very firm. She has the ability to look for the best in people. So a lot of times that's the message. Come from a place of strength, but look for the best in people and you will find it. Now the Emperor has a little different meaning to me. The Emperor is more about balance and justice and rules and order, that kind of thing, structure. This card usually says, and of course depending on the surrounding cards, that either there's too much structure to the point where it's rigid, it's total rigidity, or there's not enough structure and there needs to be some structure put in place. Let's straighten these. I struggle with this. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, the Hierophant. Now, Hierophant is a spiritual leader a lot of times in readings, and this can also go one of 2 ways. In this card, there's a lot of people celebrating down here, and it's a very big, like, party going on, and there's a lot of light around the Hierophant's head. So, in a positive light, the Hierophant is someone in your life who can give you really positive spiritual guidance that really helps you and means very much in advancing you. And on the flip side, which, now that I brought that up, I do not read reversed. A lot of readers will read the cards reversed. I do not. I think there's enough information with the surrounding cards that it's just not necessary for me to do that. So on the negative side of the Hierophant, it's someone who's taking spiritual authority over the life of the querent. So this person needs to guard against being guided and advised, especially when it's against their will and not for their highest good, okay? And the Lovers, need I say more? This is always dependent on the surrounding cards, but it's a definite card of romantic love and union. There's a lot of love cards in the deck, just like there's a lot of different loves in people's lives, but this one specifically speaks to a romantic love, of course. Now the Chariot, I really love, just her world is so whimsical and so fun. She's got a couple Pegasus horses here pulling the chariot, and it's all a little chaotic. But the main meaning of the Chariot card for me when I read is that the person I'm reading for is in the driver's seat of their life. They are in control. And sometimes they just need a reminder of that. It's very much like the Magician card. Sometimes we get knocked off balance and we forget to stand in our own power, or we feel so out of power that it's a really dark night of the soul kind of situation. So the Chariot says to step into your power and to know that you are in the driver's seat of your life and that you can make decisions based on what you want. Okay, Strength. This is one of my all-time favorite tarot cards, and it's always of a beautiful, kind woman and some kind of a lion figure. I shouldn't say always, but traditionally, those are the two elements of this card, and this is a relationship of unity and mutual respect and great power, the Strength card. And the Strength card always says that you will attract more flies with honey than vinegar. So if you're going through life snapping at people or being demanding, you're getting probably 10% of productivity than if you went with an attitude of honey and expecting the good and the best in people, and then you end up getting 95%. So that's the message of this card, is strength through kindness and mutual respect. Okay, the Hermit, another favorite card of mine. I could probably say that about every card. I love tarot so much. And I don't love all tarot. There's some dark decks out there that I just can't get into. I like the whimsical, I like the light, I like the magic and the love. So that's mostly what you'll get from my channel when it comes to cards. Now the Hermit card always says to go within. And again, in our culture, I'm in America, we are so trained and motivated through ego and lack and looking outside of ourselves. And I find it very tragic. But the Hermit card always reminds us to go within and to meditate and come up with the answers that come from the deepest part of us. The great thing about the meditation process is it gets the critical mind out of the way, and it gets the judgment out of the way, and some solutions that you could have to situations in your life have an opportunity to reveal themselves to you when we can get our judgment out of our way. So the Hermit card is always saying to go within for guidance and wisdom. Okay, the Wheel of Fortune. I love this card too. Now in Wiccan and pagan religions, the Wheel of Fortune is the wheel of the year, and it's a cause for celebration and for honoring the gods and goddesses and honoring all of those sacred holidays that are within the year. So that's one way to look at it. And another way to look at it, which is in alignment with that way, is to celebrate all of your fortunes and celebrate all of your blessings. This card is one of the most positive cards of the deck. And in this particular card, all of the astrological signs are in the wheelhouse. They're drawn in this card. I'm sure you can see that. And there's a lot of celebrating going on down here on the ground. So this is a marriage of our celestial being along with our physical being. It's a union between our spirit self and our human self. And it's a harmony with all forms of life. And it's a very positive, very prosperous card. And it is a card of celebration. Okay? Justice. This is always, depending on the surrounding cards, this has to do with court, outcomes, law and order, all those things, justice being served or being withheld. It can go either way depending on the surrounding cards. And again, just such a beautiful, beautiful card. She's got a lot of dragonflies in here, and there's a dragonfly at the heart of this woman. And she's got a sword in one hand and the scales in the other, which is a very traditional depiction of justice. And she's got dragonfly wings. So this is a really fun and whimsical depiction of justice. Lots of dragonflies in this picture here. Okay, the Hanged Man. Now, there's differences of opinion on this card, and you know, my intuitional reading can change based on, of course, the surrounding cards. I keep saying that. I'm starting to sound like a broken record. But the Hanged Man is, you can have all the power in the world, but some things are absolutely out of your control, and sometimes we just have to wait it out and know that we are powerful in the waiting, but that we don't have a say in every single thing that goes on. And there are situations that can come up in our own personal lives where we have to trust and wait. And this card is very much a card calling upon you to have faith. So down here in this little lower left corner are some Viking ruins, and I'm not sure what they are off the just off of the picture here. I don't work with ruins much. I used to when I was younger, but those are little Viking ruins. And then you've got the bunny rabbit, which there's all kinds of animals in here. There's bats and a turtle and a beehive and a spider and all just kinds of things going on here. Fish, a little clock. So this is just telling you to be in harmony and trust even when things are out of your reach, just to have faith. Okay, the Death card. This card is responsible for scaring many, many people away from tarot, and it's also responsible for those of us who read tarot being looked at as devil worshippers. This card and the Devil card, which we will go over in a minute. Now, the Death card, when I read, it very rarely means a physical death. It can, but it's very extremely rare. The Death card is extremely useful because the Death card says there's something you're doing that is interfering with your progress or in the attainment of your goal, and you need to put whatever it is you're doing to death. Some kind of attitude or belief or habit or addiction, all those kinds of things like that that can get in our way of what we're trying to accomplish in life. That's almost always what it means when I read, and it can mean illness, but it can mean physical death too. But I come from a place of we will shed this body one day, but energy never dies. That is my belief system. So this card actually has a lot of power and wisdom for people, and showing them that, hey, it's time to cool it. It's time to put that to death and get it out of your life so that you can move forward. Okay? Temperance. Now, Temperance is the alchemist of this deck of tarot. And the alchemist is, she's got fire in one chalice and water in the other. And the alchemist can blend fire and water without boiling the water and without putting out the fire. This is being a master at juggling all the things in your life. It's being a master at blending your life together in such a way that you live very harmoniously and very happy. This is a very positive card here. And Temperance always does call to follow your inner intuition, like the High Priestess. Okay, speak of the devil. All right, this card is responsible for so much misunderstanding in the world of tarot. Now, to me, when I read for people, this card is constantly, always guiding against temptation. And it's always warning the person who's getting the reading that, you know, think through your actions and behaviors. Are you really going to be able to live with a certain behavior in order to make that money or have that relationship or whatever it is you're pursuing? Because, what is that saying? The ends justify the means. A lot of times when people do something that is against their moral fiber, the ends do not justify the means, or the means do not justify the ends, excuse me. It ends up, can very well ruin a person's life, and that's on the extreme end. But, you know, we've really got to be careful about what we're willing to do for an income and what we're willing to do to get what we want, because we can completely destroy what it is that we want by how we get it. So this card is definitely guarding against temptation to act in a way that we wouldn't normally act. This is really being close and deep into only being able to see what the person wants and tainting their moral fiber. Okay, guarding against temptation. And it's a very powerful, very useful card in the deck. Okay, the Tower. Here's another card that scares people away. And this card is another very useful, powerful card. The Tower always talks about watch your foundations. I will read for people who have just had a breakup or a betrayal in their relationship. I read for a young man a while back, and his girlfriend had cheated on him, and he was really heartbroken. And so this card is just telling you to really watch how you lay the foundation of the relationships and the situations in your life. And sometimes we only can do what we can do. We can only work with what we've got at the time. But a lot of times, like with people, it just takes some time to observe the person and their behavior and how they act when they're alone with us versus how they act with their friends around. How do they treat their family? We can avoid a lot of this by simply observing the relationships that we're contemplating whether or not to allow into our lives. So the tarot card is another very useful card. Okay, the Star card. Now this card to me is always pointing to wishes fulfilled. This card can very much be to a person who all the outside appearances of their life show that their wishes are not being fulfilled and that all the work they've been doing is for nothing. And this card shows up to tell you, no, 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 hang on. Just hang in there and keep the faith because your wishes are being fulfilled. When we make a wish, the universe starts to rearrange things in our life. When we commit to a wish that we want and turn it into a goal, then the universe comes in and starts to shift things around and shake things up that aren't working, you know, like the tarot or the Tower card coming up. So, this card can definitely require patience and faith at times. It always shows up to say, hey, you're on the right track, depending on the surrounding cards, of course. or you need to maybe do a little bit more work. So a very auspicious card in the deck, one of my all-time favorites again. It's a very abundant, very happy card. Okay, the moon. I just love this little creature. He is so cool, this little moon howler here. And then there's a crab because the moon is lunar, night, and water. Water and the moon are synonymous with each other, just like the sun and fire go together. And this card always says in a reading that there are hidden forces at work for you. So we can trust that the universe wants the very best for us, and that when we put in our orders into the universe and we ask for help and guidance, that it is our job to learn how to listen at that point, because the universe speaks in many, many different ways to us through symbols and books and billboards and songs and movies, you name it. The universe is always trying to communicate with us. But when this card shows up, it specifically means that there are hidden forces at work for you. Okay, the Sun. This is one of the most triumphant cards of the deck. This is a very happy, very successful card. This is absolutely pointing to being on the right track. Or if the surrounding cards are painful or negative, this can be coming into the sunlight of the spirit, coming out of a dark night of the soul type situation, depending on the surrounding cards, of course. And Judgment. I think it's really clever how she did this card, because judgment is always about judgment time, and the time for judgment is at hand. And she very cleverly made these trees look like an hourglass and put the little happy person inside the hourglass. Judgment is a very positive card. It's a card of completion. It's a card of getting to the end of a cycle with a very positive outcome, depending on the surrounding cards. But this in itself is a very positive card. It's a timing card as well. So it does point to and speak to the elements that we deal with in the physical with the hourglass. Okay, and the World, one of the most successful cards in the deck right here. And the World is also in pagan and Wiccan religions, very much so about celebrating nature and the gods and goddesses and giving thanks for all of our blessings. This and the Wheel of Fortune card really do go hand in hand together. And this card is just extremely successful. Things are coming together. There's so much harmony, and just a really wonderful card. So that is the Major Arcana. And come right back for part 2 of 3, and we'll be going over the Minor Arcana, Wands, and Cups next.